Released on this day 15 years ago, Double Dragon Zeebo is a game that few of us had the opportunity to play when it was released. The Zeebo wasn't exactly popular, even here in Brazil, having sold around 30,000 units. The game was available for download as a launch title for the console, which lasted from 2009 to 2011, and while we don't know how many copies it sold, it surely wasn't many. Luckily, last week an emulator was released for the Zeebo just in time for the game's anniversary, and today we will take a look at the game and see if waiting 25 years to play was really worth it. But before all that, hi, I am Savino, and welcome to the Flying Kick channel. So, if you are not sure what the Zeebo was, well, it was a quote-unquote cheap console alternative that Tectoy, yeah, that Tectoy, released here in Brazil in 2009. The console was among the first online-only home console using its own 3G network. The console sold only 30,000 units, which is not a surprise considering the hardware was below what the Wii was capable of and the price was about the same, $250. The Zeebo was a complete failure, being discontinued only 2 years after release in 2011 after trying to get a piece of the Chinese market but failing miserably. And the meager catalog of games is another proof of that. Now that you're up to date with the Zeebo, let's talk about the game. Double Dragon Zeebo is, guess what? Another remake of the original Double Dragon. But yeah, nobody plays Double Dragon for the story, and here that's exactly what you get. Basically, no story. The game is based on Double Dragon Advance with enemies from Double Dragon 1 and 2 mixed together and a couple more levels than the original arcade. As a story, here you get the traditional Marion gets punched in the guts cutscene and an ending with a few sentences in Portuguese and a single picture saying fin or the end. There are no cutscenes between the bosses like Advanced had. You can say that presentation-wise, this version isn't advanced enough. Okay, I'll see myself out. And I'm back. So, graphically, as you can see, it's a mixed bag. While the sprites and animations look outstanding, the backgrounds, not so much. They are all flat and boring with little detail all around and really nothing interesting to talk about. I guess the only memorable levels here are the third one, which has a cool looking cityscape in the background, and the last level, which is yet another rendition of Willy's Palace, but it looks somewhat good. What bothers me the most here is that you get no variation at all in half of the levels. While levels 1, 2 and 6 have a little bit of variation, the other ones are just the same background repeating over and over again. I'm not sure what happened here. It seems that one team was in charge of the backgrounds while another team was in charge of the characters, because the difference between them is huge. It's a bit jarring to see these backgrounds in contrast with the players and enemies on the screen. While the backgrounds look boring, the sprites are all incredibly well made. Their design is pretty cool, Billy and Jimmy look great, then the enemies, well, not all of them, but they generally look good. I really liked Willy's design with grey hair and a grey beard that makes him look even more badass. They also used an amazing shading that gives each character a lot of volume. You can even spot some self-shadows, which helps a lot with the visuals, and it's something that we don't used to see in many modern games. The animations are also spectacular, with some smooth moves thanks to some extra frames here and there. The kicks and punches all look great, but this animation comes with a cost, affecting the gameplay a little, as we will see in a bit. There's also a lack of shadows on the floor, which makes the character a bit detached from the background, and that's really bothered me more than the complete absence of parallax scrolling. Now, talking about the audio, what we have here is, well, impressively good. The sound effects are incredibly solid with a good crunchiness to them and a little bit of reverb that reminds me a lot of the SNES sound. You can hear with clarity knives and axes cutting through flesh, the sound of metal hitting the floor when you drop a baseball bat, and the hollow sounds of a barrel rolling around. It's all pretty amazing. The sound mixing is also pretty good. You can hear your enemies screaming when they die or your character shouting to unleash their move, but It's all kept lower than the other sounds, turning what could be a repetitive sound clip into something you will barely notice. Although barely noticeable are also some important sounds like wheelie machine guns fire, which you almost can hear under the sounds of all the punches and kicks, but these are minor details that honestly only after reviewing my footage that I realized this was the case. The OST is, well, fantastic. The sound quality is a bit low, but considering the console had a limit for how big the games could be, this is expected, but still, what they crammed here is very impressive. Yeah, you will find the good and old and same music that you already listened thousands of times in the thousands of remakes from the first game, but still, the versions here are pretty cool. I mean, I don't like this version of the theme song so much, but the others, my friends, there's a lot of good stuff here. Luckily you can hear them all on the options, which is always a cool bonus. The only problem with the songs here is that they don't loop very well, so if you pay attention you can hear exactly when they end. But, as I said, only if you pay attention to it. This is not something that you would notice unless you are an annoying person making a review and nitpicking a couple of stuff. Anyway, as always, take a listen to some of my favorites. Now let's talk about the gameplay and combat because, whoa, just whoa. I mean, it should be a crime to keep a game like this locked away from the fans, but let's start from the beginning. First of all, kudos to this game for not wasting your time with nonsense. You start the game and boom, right on the splash screen telling you to press start. No unskippable logos, no warnings, no shenanigans, nada. Man, I miss these days. Clicking start and you are taken to the screen, and yes, everything is in Portuguese, but most of the things you can make it out pretty easily. So, as options you can pick between easy, normal and hard difficulties, you can select the number of lives and continues, and thankfully, you can change the button layout, which is terrible by default. Talking about the buttons, you have your traditional punch and kick, a jump, a crouching move that works like a dodge, and a drop button for weapons that you are carrying. The game will take you through 6 levels with a few old bosses and some new ones at the end of each one. Oh, and this one has no platform section, which, look at Double Dragon's history, is a plus. The game also offered a 2-player mode and an extra mode where you can unlock extra characters, aka the enemies, and play the campaign with them. Most of the enemies have only a few moves, but it's a nice addition. You can unlock new characters by playing with the ones you unlocked, and there's a bunch of them. The combat in Double Dragon Zeebo is probably one of the best in the series, right there with Double Dragon Advance. First of all, you have a ton of moves. I mean, if you play Double Dragon Advance, you already know what's expecting you because this game has the same moves from Advance. Aside from your punch and kick, you also have a kick on the knee by pressing down while kicking, and if you press kick once more, you unleash a very cool barrage of kicks. You also have 2 flying kicks, a regular one and one where you press down the directional to perform a quicker and downward move, great for pinning down some enemies. Crouching is, believe it or not, the most versatile button here. You can crouch, obviously, but if combined with a forward motion, you unleash an awesome headbutt on your enemies. Combining it with a punch or a kick, release the classic hook and knee jump first introduced in Double Dragon 3. Oh, and if you jump and press crouch, you will get this cool spinning kick here. Do you think this is all? Nope. If an enemy is on the floor, you can press down and crouch to jump over them, dealing a lot of damage. I told you, it's the most versatile button in the game. You can also run by tapping twice on the directional, and by pressing kick, punch or crouch, you unleash different flying kicks. amazing stuff. The combat feels incredibly good, with great hit stun on your enemies that really makes you feel like you broke some teeth. As you can see by the footage, your characters are pretty agile, being able to move quickly across the screen. The smaller sprites work great on this 4:3 aspect ratio because it gives you a lot of space to run around and reposition yourself. And it wouldn't be a Double Dragon game if it didn't have some cool weapons for you to use, and we have a lot here. I mean, nothing really new for a Double Dragon game, but still the variety is here and they are all pretty fun to use. You know the deal. Knives, bats, oil drums, nunchucks, explosives, and all your weapons except for the whip can be thrown at your enemies, which is great because even when you don't like to use a certain weapon, you can always use it as a projectile. But I recommend you to grab the weapons quickly, otherwise the enemies will do it and they will not be afraid to use them against you. What's cooler here is that this version of Double Dragon allows you to perform a few combos, nothing too much deep, something in line with what you can do in Double Dragon Advance, and it feels pretty good here. The controls are extremely solid and responsive, and the ability to change the button layout is definitely a plus here. Unfortunately, not everything is perfect. The game has a couple of problems that are not really problems, but can affect the experience. First, your weapons can be very overpowered. They never break on your hands and they do not disappear even if you drop them a couple of times. Their reach is huge, making beating the enemies an easy task. Some of the hitboxes and hurtboxes can be a bit wonky sometimes, with hits missing for no reason or simply landing but not registering. You also need to be very precise because one pixel above or below your enemies and chances are you won't hit anyone. And also you must commit to the buttons you pressed. If you press the punch 3 times, you will hit the enemy 3 times no matter what. Cancelling a command isn't an option here, so think before acting. The game can be a little unfair sometimes, throwing tons of enemies at once on you, giving you little to no chance to survive when they all gang up on you, kicking and punching you every time you try to get up. While the offer of lives and continues is generous, you may lose a couple at once because of some excessive enemies. The tip I can give you here is don't rush, go slow and fewer enemies will spawn. Enemies can also be pretty aggressive sometimes, even on normal difficulty, which can be a little off-putting for some people, but honestly, Double Dragon never held anyone's hand, so this is not really a surprise. One thing that I want to call your attention to this game is the controllers. It's incredibly responsive. It feels way better than Double Dragon Advance, and I even play both back to back here to compare, and honestly, this one plays much better. So, after 15 years, we all can finally play this elusive game, and honestly, as I said, I think it should be a crime to keep us from playing this gem for so long. Yes, the game is not perfect, but this is easily one of the best Double Dragon games around. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope you all have a lot of fun with this game as I did, and let's all celebrate that we can finally enjoy this great Double Dragon game. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions about how to play it, leave it in the comments that I will try to help you. Other than that, I hope you all have an awesome day, and remember, keep it up.